action. Hello, welcome back to Show and Tell, the holiday edition. I'm Billy and I'm your host. And today is going to be my year-end wrap-up. I don't think that I'll be recording from now until New Year's. So I wanted to do a year in review with you and show you all the things that I finished in the past year. Plus, I wanted to talk about FIFI, which I mentioned at the beginning of the year. This was going to be my year to finish it first. In other words, finish something before casting on. I want to do a sort of debriefing to see how I fared with that FIFI program. So rather than model everything, because I've already done that, I will put images here to show you the various things that I finished. Thelma, Viscountess Furness, take 1. Lace Cardigan, take 2. Scarf, balaclava, and mitten ensemble for my son, take 3. Log cabin jacket, take 4. Mary Maxim, Prairie Prancers, take 5. Mademoiselle, take 6. This is Mademoiselle, finally finished. I really had marked it in Ravelry as already finished because all I had left to do was this little collar band, and it was partway stitched down, but I had run out of white yarn, and I decided today before I did this recording that I would wrap it up. And when I went to do it, I really felt like there was too much yarn. So I had a whole production today, which is why it's already dark outside and I'm in artificial light. But I removed some of the stitching in here. I pulled back and I re-knit and finished it off. I also moved the buttons because I wasn't that happy. They were too far over. So I did a little bit of a cleanup job. I'll come back to this in a moment. Navy sleeveless top, take 7. Green Chevron by Sirdar, take 8. And Jeannie, take 9. So count them, that's 9 finished things. Actually, it's a little more because the accessories are 3 separate things. But whew, now the things that were works in progress that I finished were the lace jacket had been stagnating for a while. The scarf, mitten, balaclava set was a work in progress. That I did finish. Log cabin was sitting around for more than a year. I still have the 1940s two-tone sweater, the one that's eau de Nil and like a teal color. That's still a work in progress, as is my V-back tee. So not too bad. 2 things out of a list of, I think there were 8 that were whips going into 2021. So I finished all of them but 2. I'm really proud of that. The only thing that I haven't modeled yet for you is Jeannie, and I'm saving that until the people who knit along with me come back together and we'll do one final wrap up. But not only did I finish Jeannie, here it is, I also made a funny little hat for it, which you won't see on me until my group gets back together. So be on the lookout for that. Now, other news for the year to come. I've been playing around with this knit along idea and trying to feed you hints to entice you to join. But I rethought that, and I think at this point I am going to spill the beans and tell you about it so that you have time to sign up. The registration link will be in the show notes below. So drum roll, it is indeed the Elsa Schiaparelli Bowknot sweater of 1920 something. I'll get you the date in a minute. So here you see the sweater that we will knit together. Twice before I have mentioned Elsa Schiaparelli. Once when I showed the lobster dress that she designed for Wallis Simpson, the wife of Edward VIII, who abdicated his throne for her. And once when I showed a sweater in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum. She was born in Rome in 1890, and her career flourished in Paris, London, and New York. In early 1927, she launched a new collection of knitwear using a special double-layered stitch created by Armenian refugees and featuring sweaters with surrealist trompe-l'oeil images like the one in question. I'm going to digress because you know how I love to tell stories. When I was a little girl growing up in Philadelphia, there was a television show called Cartoon Corners. And the host of the show was a man named Gene London, who was a very handsome, dashing young man, extremely talented. I might have mentioned him before. He would tell stories at the same time that he illustrated on a large pad of paper the story that he was telling. Gene London had a great success in television back in the 60s, and he amassed a significant amount of money with which he started to acquire famous clothing. And he had such a huge collection that he sometimes would display them at the Philadelphia Flower Show and other places where large groups of people might be gathering. I'll put some pictures here. I had an opportunity to meet him, and I also took some photographs of some of the things in his collection. He was a huge collector of Elsa Schiaparelli. When the Philadelphia Museum of Art mounted an exhibit of her work, many of the pieces were on loan from Gene London. His collection includes more than 60,000 pieces from undergarments to gowns, and it features costumes worn by stars from Mae West to Sean Connery to Madonna, and created by some of the film industry's greatest designers, including Edith Head, of course Schiaparelli, Halston, and Bob Mackie. Mae West chose French couturier Elsa Schiaparelli to design her evening gowns for Every Day's a Holiday. To make sure the fit was perfect, West had a plaster cast made of her torso and shipped it to Paris. When Schiaparelli opened the crate and saw West's voluptuous form, she uttered one word, "shocking," which she would later use as the name of her signature fragrance, bottled in the shape of Mae West's torso. Her best known perfume, which ultimately made her a fortune, was Shocking, 1936. contained in a bottle sculpted by Leonore Feeney in the shape of a woman's torso, inspired by Mae West Taylor's dummy. The packaging, also designed by Feeney, was in shocking pink, one of Schiaparelli's signature colors. For her first collection in 1927, Elsa Schiaparelli designed several sporty sweaters that featured geometric motifs and trompe-l'oeil bows, collars, and cuffs. Each sweater was hand knit using bold colors or black and white yarns that produced a mottled effect, foreshadowing her career-long interest in using visually interesting fabrics. The success of one particular sweater with a trompe-l'oeil Bowknot officially established her reputation in the fashion world as an artistic purveyor of chic, who designed unconventional, unique clothing. I've left a link in the show notes below if you want to learn more about Elsa Schiaparelli. So I'd like for everyone to come together on January 15th over Zoom. The sign-up information will be in the description below. And the time in your local time zone will become apparent to you when you go to sign up. A lot of us YouTubers balk about YouTube's algorithm and how it places us in the public eye. The best thing that you can do to help me get noticed and to grow this channel is to subscribe, first of all, and to set the notifications. Now, YouTube gives me a lot of analytic information, so I'm able to see that only a small fraction of the people who are subscribers have set those notifications. So please be sure that next to subscribe, the bell with the little lines next to it is selected. And then you can also go into your personal YouTube settings and just check. You will no longer get an email, but if you are signed into YouTube when one of these videos has been posted, you'll get a little reminder at the bell. You have to drop down the bell to see. So it's really not a bell that's going to ring. It's not that kind of a notification, but you will see it in the list of things under that bell if you drop it down. I also would like to mention that I spend quite a bit of time perfecting the subtitles. YouTube does them, but they misspell the word pearl all the time and a myriad of other things that are knitting related. Plus they misspell my name for starters. So I want you to be able to take advantage of those subtitles, especially because they're translated into zillions of different languages. If you're not sure how to access those, you want to go to the lower right-hand corner of your screen and look for the gear and pop that up. You should see something in there. By the way, if you're enjoying this content and you would like to see more, I certainly would welcome your support. Any amount will help defray some of the administrative expenses that I incur. Again, you'll see information in the description box below. I just wanted to show you my blocking because this is a little bit of an unusual situation. So this is the back of my sweater, and I've already seamed it at the shoulder, and that's the bottom of the front, the hem. Now these stripes, I pinned them into place. I'll show a still picture of before they're blocked. They're squished together, they're very tight. Now this is the collar. And this is the part that I really wanted to show, because it's not blocked flat like most of the things I've blocked before. I think you really have to have this kind of standing up. It's almost like a Charles James creation. It's three-dimensional. And you have to imagine that the neck is here and this is coming up. So it's folded down like that. This piece I left unfinished. It's the only part that I still have
a little bit of knitting to do because this has to come around here and go under. So it's got to be exactly the right measurement. And this blue and white striped panel is a separate piece. Let me unpin this so you can see. It's going over that. And one more thing as I'm unpinning it. Under this and under this is a separate panel. So the front is in 3 parts. This underlap, the overlap, and this add-on striped piece.
This week's Pearl of Wisdom is a quote by Gore Vidal. He said, and I think Elsa Schiaparelli would probably very much appreciate this, style is knowing who you are, what you want to say, and not giving a damn. So I look forward to spending 2022 with you. I'll be continuing on with my collaboration with Roxanne Richardson on the Harlequin, on which, by the way, I've made quite a bit of progress, but you'll have to come back next time to see more of that. And also I'll be starting on the Bowknot sweater, hopefully with a bunch of you. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the holidays, and I look forward to seeing you in a better year ahead, 2022. Signing out. See you next year.